Welcome back to Market Day Report. I'm Chris Swift. We're at the top of the hour now, and the markets have been open just a little bit. They had been kind of a little softer in the corn market starting out. Let's see if we've been able to get any gains to it. And still a little bit softer, but at least off the lows. December corn down 2.5, 485 3/4. March corn down 2 3/4 at 501 even. And the July corn down 2 3/4 at 514 1/4. Our soybeans have been trying to make a little gains on the front end there, and they have continued with those gains. November up 4 3/4 at 1269 even, 1254 1/4 low tick. January up 3 1/4, 1285 3/4, and the March contract up 1 3/4 at 1297 1/2. In our Chicago wheat this morning, they had been soft, and they're recovering a little bit off of the lows. I got December wheat down 12 1/4 at 560 1/2. 555 1/2 has been low tick. March wheat down 11 3/4 at 591 3/4, and new crop July down 11 at 629 3/4. Hard red winter wheat this morning, a little bit softer as well, down 14 3/4 on the Dees, 671 1/4. March down 14 at 680 3/4. New crop July down 13 3/4, 690 1/2. And Minneapolis spring wheat down 11 1/4 on the December at 719 3/4. March down 11 1/2 at 743 3/4. And the July contract down 8 1/4, 774 3/4. I've got Ben Hushon on the line this morning with me. Ben, we have seen some weather come through, and we have seen all kinds of harvest pressure coming through. What's it look like in your area there?
Good morning, Chris. Well, that pretty much describes it. Over the weekend, we had about 3/4 of an inch of rain. Pretty much brought harvest to a halt. Had another cloudy, drizzly day yesterday. But, Chris, what's really putting a lot of pressure on folks is folks like Tim Ross and others are telling us we have 2+ inches of rain coming Saturday and Sunday. So combines are rolling. Some of them are into soybeans, some of them into corn, and certainly wheat planting. We've passed the Hushon fly date in our region, so folks are chasing the combine around now, planting wheat. But the biggest challenge, or the most interesting thing we're seeing, is the corn in Carroll County, Maryland, right up along the Pennsylvania line. We're hearing a lot of 130, 140 bushel corn. So significant drop in bushels, and then you just drive an hour west, sometimes less, and just you change that to 200+ bushels. So corn harvest is moving along, nowhere near 50% yet, but certainly having a 20-25% significant run into it at this point.
Well, that's interesting. So we heard Sam talk earlier a little bit about the weather and issues there in the corn and some of the basis. So we know that the Mississippi River has been very low. In your area there, is storage an issue? Will you have enough storage, or do you need to push a lot of that crop down south to get it out of the way?
So probably 5-6 years ago, we had maybe it's a little longer than that, we had the beginnings of grain bin building boom. Actually, it's probably been more like 7 or 8. So lots of I would say on-farm storage in our community is probably 3x what it was 10 years ago, maybe even a little less than that. And then, of course, the folks that do the buying have added capacity too, just because we keep seeing yields in general climbing and climbing. So I don't think we're going to have a serious issue with that. The challenge they have is right now, the combines that are running, they're harvesting 18 to 22% corn. In fact, probably more in the 20-22%. So then that certainly slows down the on-farm drying process. So capacity is always going to be a little bit of a challenge, but right now probably dryer capacity is the biggest challenge they have today.
All right. Well, so one other question in your area there, what does most of your demand come from there? Is it some of the ethanol plants that are around there? I know you're big in dairies there, but what's going to be consuming a lot of that on-farm stored corn?
Two animals, chickens and hogs. would be taking up the most significant amount of corn and bean bushels for us. There is certainly, there's a crush plant nearby, et cetera, but ethanol doesn't have too big a play in our area, at least until you get up into the mid-state of Pennsylvania.
And will you export any of that? I know you're very close to the ocean there. Do y'all export any from there?
There is. There's export, especially soybeans, and it's rather unique. They go in containers, literally shipping containers, and get exported. But not pretty much. It's a demand. Is all sucked up by the chickens and hogs to get them fed.
Fantastic. Ben, I certainly do appreciate you taking the time to come on with us this morning. That's Ben Hushon. He is with The Mill, and I'm Chris Swift. We're going to take a short commercial break. We're going to be back, talk a little livestock, so stay with us.